Fox's Glee is a television musical. It follows several characters and their involvement with their high school's Glee club. It also follows characters that have since graduated from that high school and are auditioning in New York on Broadway. The show has elements of comedy and drama, and I'm going to talk about how well those elements were incorporated in Episode 1, Season 5, Love, Love, Love. Let's get started. Love, Love, Love doesn't have one main plot. It has several subplots, and that's what makes up the core of the show. Now, only one of the subplots in this episode revolves around comedy. That plot revolves around the character of Sue Sylvester. She returns as the high school's interim principal as the original one was fired due to legal reasons. Now, this subplot is extremely funny to me, and I didn't think the show could make me laugh, but it did. Very hard, in fact. One scene that comes to mind is the scene involving Sue breaking into the original principal's office and planting evidence to get him arrested or what have you.
America, your prayers have been answered. Sue Sylvester is back at McKinley. Sure, I enjoyed my time away, but once Becky Jackson fessed up and started serving her month-long suspension, the school begged me to return. But I knew if I was gonna come back, I had to come back big time, in a next level way.
Welcome back, Coach Sylvester.
It's Principal Sylvester. I broke into Figgins' office and planted incriminating evidence of every conceivable variety.
We've had some complaints.
Oh, Miss Roberts, what's going on?
I think you have a few things in your desk you may want to share with us.
Gambling receipts, porno mags,
We're gonna be here for a while.
gay porno mags, gay foot fetish porno mags.
It's not mine.
That's puppy
I'm
porn.
telling you, it's not mine. I go to church every Sunday, for God's sake.
A polygamous marriage certificate, a bill of sale granting campus drilling rights to a fracking company, an autographed copy of Mein Kampf.
I'm telling you, I'm innocent.
Our hands are tied, Mr.
And that subplot only continues to be funnier as two characters are brought into Sue's office after she's named principal to be interrogated or talked to by Sue. One character, the head coach or leader of the Cheerios, which I believe is the cheerleading squad at the school, talks about her past actions, and everything she lists as to reasons why she could be fired are hysterical.
I don't know what you're so nervous about. She's not going after the Cheerios. It's the Glee Club she hates.
Bitch, please. Sue Sylvester's had it out for me since day one. I took her job, remember? I just know she's dug up all kind of dirt on me.
What kind of dirt?
Number one, this bronze dam Olympic medal in individual synchronized swimming I won at them Chinese Olympics may have been the result of some performance-enhancing drugs and weed. Number two, I may have perpetrated a buttload of credit card fraud. An old lady in Florida may have paid for my condo, and I might have just flat out stole my Lexus off a used car lot.
Well, then, yeah. We're both screwed.
Another scene involves Sue talking to the ex-principal and then just making a mockery of him by just spilling this disgusting meat stuff all over the floor. It's just great and hilarious.
Oh, settling in nicely then, are we? You know, I think you found your calling. And Janitor Figgins, I think, has a quiet dignity to it.
You're not gonna get away with this, Sue.
Well, I believe I already have. And considering all the scandalous behavior that I recently uncovered, I would say you are lucky to have a job at all.
You had better be nice to Donna, my long-term secretary. That woman is a saint, and she's my rock.
Well, I'm afraid Donna isn't long for this world. As soon as she returns from her suspension, I plan on installing Becky as my secretary. And I will refer to her as my Beckretary.
What is that?
That? Well, that's just a 5-gallon bucket of expired grade D meat slurry. The poor kids at the school were forced to eat every Taco Tuesday under the jackboot of that corrupt, decadent regime from which they were recently liberated by one Sue Rodham Sylvester.
That's not your middle name.
Oh, yes, it is. I had it legally changed this morning. Now, what would you like me to do with this canister of rancid horse offal?
No! Sue, please, no!
Overall, I think as this subplot goes on throughout the episode, it's continuously funny and it makes me laugh every time. And it's good, it achieves what it's trying to do. And it's a good juxtaposition to the dramatic elements that are going on throughout the rest of the cast in that episode. One thing I will praise the show for is that every time I tried to make a joke and make me laugh, I did laugh, and I laughed pretty hard. And that's a good thing. So, in terms of the comedic elements of the show, it did a very good job. The other side of that coin is that the show is also a drama. Now, there are several subplots throughout the episode, like I said, and they all follow other characters' dramatic events. The first one that's introduced is Rachel. Rachel is auditioning to be on a Broadway musical, and in the first scene we see her auditioning on stage with another actor, and it turns out that they don't want to have her as part because she's too green or inexperienced, a little too young. So that's brought up, and she goes off to sing Yesterday by the Beatles, and it's left unsaid for almost the rest of the episode. About halfway through, those same two, like the other actor and the guy watching her audition, the judge, they're in the diner she works at. Now, she then sings It's Been a Hard Day's Night, and then leaves the diner. It's kind of a weird subplot because you set up her auditioning and you set up her trying to redeem herself by singing, but then you don't finish it. She just leaves that diner, and that's the last of that subplot. I don't know if it's followed up in other episodes or if it's mentioned previously in other ones, but in this episode in particular, it just starts and then just stops. It's kind of weak, and it just seemed to be a little filler. The second subplot I want to talk about is the relationship between Blaine and Kurt. Sorry if I look over at my notebook. I'm new to the show and I don't know all the characters' names quite yet. Now, Blaine and Kurt are a gay couple that, according to the episode, were previously involved with each other until Blaine was caught cheating on Kurt. By the start of the episode, they're getting back together, and by the end of the episode, Blaine is proposing to Kurt. This is really weird and very unbelievable, as in the course of 40 minutes, you have getting back together, nothing happening, let's get married. What? These characters don't grow very much over the course of the episode, yet they get married. It's not very believable, and I don't think it's very good. As for the idea of having a gay couple on TV, it's kind of a cool idea. It's different. No one really does that, but you still have to have good character development. Another subplot involved in the show is the relationship between Artie and Kitty. Now, Artie is a handicapped Glee Club member, and Kitty is a cheerleader who's also a member of Glee Club. She seems very preppy, or not preppy, but very like a popular kind of girl who doesn't see herself as on the same level with these people. She seems above them. Now, this episode introduces them as dating, as sort of an item, if you will. And it's kind of a natural high school relationship in that regard, because the way it evolves is that Artie is dating Kitty, and Kitty doesn't want to be seen with Artie because, as like I said, she doesn't feel that she's above them. But naturally, over the episode, you see Artie struggle with that, and then you see Katie come to terms with that relationship and publicly displaying her love for him. And it's, it's kind of cute. I like it. It's much more believable than the Kurt Blaine relationship in that episode, and has a natural, growth to it. There's a lot more focus on it. And I do like that. I think it's a really good part of the show. The last subplot I want to talk about involves Tina. It's made apparent that she isn't acting herself and is apparently being very mean and testy. So, to make up for it, several characters form a little Beatles mock band, like a mock Beatles cover band, and they perform for her, asking her if she wants to take one of the four of them to prom, and then she picks one of them, and that's it. And again, it's very strange because it's just brought up in the middle of the episode, given little context, and then ends very abruptly with no development. I think it's kind of weird because they talk about going to prom and whatnot, but I don't know. I've never seen the show. I don't know if that's a big deal, but I know when I was in high school, prom was a big deal, and if this is worrisome for her, it should be mentioned early in the episode. I didn't realize that was the problem until they had brought it up at the end, and he was already over it. So there's no development, and it's a little weak. Last thing I want to talk about is my opinion of the show. Now, I'd never really watched Glee before this. I'd always thought it was kind of off-putting. I'm not against musicals or anything. I watched Les Miserables and Pitch Perfect, and I like both those movies. But Glee was just always weird to me. And after watching it, I liked it. It was funny and entertaining. Some of the subplots were a little weak, but past that, it was still pretty good. I'd recommend the show to anybody who's into musical numbers or just funny high school-centered shows. It's good in that fashion. I mean, sad to say, I'm not going to watch it again. There's nothing really that kept my interest. The musical numbers were okay, but they're just blown out proportions of the Beatles songs. I like the originals better, of course. To wrap it up, Glee has several subplots, some weaker than others, that are funny and interesting at times. The relationships need a little more development, but are there. It has decent musical numbers, and is pretty good overall. I'd recommend it if you like musicals in general, or if you're just a fan of comedy. It was very hysterical to watch. The drama bits are okay, if you're into that sort of thing, so I wouldn't watch it for that. But definitely if you're into comedy and musical stuff, I would give it a try. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this.